Nancy. Is Nancy here?
Yes.
Nancy, how can I forward the link to the
You
meeting?
can copy and paste it.
Just copy this link that I have in a calendar, right?
Mm-hmm.
People still try to join.
Yeah, that's probably the easiest way to do it, is just copy it and paste it and send it along.
I did, and people. Okay. Somebody already found it. Okay. It was in my spam folder.
We're just waiting for the councillor to join us.
Yep, so it's just after 6:30, but we'll give it a few more minutes for the councillor to join us and a few more attendees to join. Our numbers are going up rapidly now, so that's great news. What does Mo always say? The popcorn's popping?
Alyssa, are you driving the slides or is Susan?
Susan is.
Okay.
Yeah, Teresa, just tell me when you would like me to advance.
I will, and I will also, when I'm kind of talking about areas, if you could you use your pointer to kind of point?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
For those of you who are already here, thanks so much for joining us. We're just gonna wait a few more minutes for our councillor to join and a few more extra attendees. So sit tight, we'll be starting soon. I feel like I should be making like a joke or something to pass the time. I don't know. Need that elevator music. Do, 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 do. If anyone's interested and able to turn their cameras on, it's always nice to see faces. Remember that there's people out there. If you don't want to, that's okay too.
I'm still getting emails asking to join.
This is the popular spot tonight.
Wonderful. I see our counselor has been able to join us. I know she's been very busy. We'll probably get started. I'll turn it over back to you, Melissa.
Okay, great. Thanks, Michelle. I was trying to see in the participant list, so thanks so much for that update. All right. Well, we're great. Thanks so much. So welcome everyone to the Ethennonnhawastihnen Library Virtual Community Open House. Thanks so much for joining us this evening. My name is Melissa Scott, and I'm the Library Service Manager for the Fairview District of the Toronto Public Library. I just want to let everybody know that our WebEx assistant has been turned on. So if anyone is interested in having closed captioning, you can turn that on by clicking on the icon in the bottom left-hand corner of your screen. And I just want to let everybody know as well that this session is being recorded for those of you that aren't able to attend. All right. We're going to start things off by reading our land acknowledgement statement. So Toronto Public Library is situated on Indigenous land and dish with one spoon territory. This is the traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee Confederacy, the Wendat, and the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. Toronto Public Library gratefully acknowledges these Indigenous nations for their guardianship of this land. Next slide, please. Great. So before we get started, we just want to discuss a few social expectations for this open house and how we're going to approach this meeting this evening. We want to make sure that everybody knows that we're going to be treating each other with respect, that we're going to be listening and learning from each other's comments and questions. And remember that we are a part of a fair and welcoming space for everyone where we all get an opportunity to share. Next slide, please. I'm going to pass things over to Michelle to talk a little bit about our agenda.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome. My name is Michelle Allen, and I am the Area Manager for Fairview From and the Agent Court District. I am pleased to welcome you to our open house tonight to present the design for our relocated and greatly expanded Bayview Village Library under its new name, Ethennonnhawastihnen. Together with city staff, we'll also be presenting some of the planned features and the amenities of the new community center. And I want to let you know that in our agenda tonight, there will be an opportunity to take questions and alongside get your feedback towards the end of the presentations. So feel free to place any questions or comments in the chat. Just want to let you know that staff will be monitoring the chat to make sure there's respectful dialogue. And we've also posted a link to the library's online and social media policy statement and rules of conduct. So tonight we'll be covering several different topics, including a bit of the context and the history of the project. We'll be sharing some of the consultation activities that took place. And then we'll be, of course, sharing some images of the design for the library and for the whole community center. And we'll be talking about a little bit of the project schedule and the next steps. But to start us off, I'm going to introduce Councillor Shelley Carroll to give us some opening remarks. Councillor Carroll, hopefully you can having a little bit of technical difficulties with Councillor Carroll's equipment right now. Try and get the audio working. In the meantime, I'm going to start off then with our Director of Branch Operations and Customer Experience, Mohaseni Era, and perhaps he can say a few words while we're waiting for the councillor.
Thanks, Michelle. And Councillor, feel free to interrupt me when you get your audio working. I do want to actually start by acknowledging the councillor support for this project and library in general. We really appreciate Councillor Carroll's support throughout this project and other library projects across the city. And I also want to just address the fact that we had an opportunity and we're honored that we were able to name both the community center as well as the library, the facility, in fact, Ethennonnhawastihnen. And we agreed when the street naming and the park naming had happened that it was probably most appropriate to name the space, both the community center, library, similarly. So we have our own process for the library where our library board has the authority for naming. And so what we initially did is we went to our Indigenous Advisory Council to ensure that we had their support. And then, of course, with all respect to our Huron-Wendat Nation and ensuring that they didn't have any concerns for us using the name. And so we got their blessing to do this. We also had our Indigenous Advisory Council. We went to our board in earlier this year in February, and everybody unanimously agreed that this was a fantastic idea, and as I say, we're very honored to be able to put this name on our facility. So with that, and I see that we've got a note from Councillor Carroll saying she'll be ready very shortly. I will maybe stop talking and we can decide how much further we can go down the agenda, and then we'll absolutely invite Councillor Carroll to speak as soon as the audio issue is fixed.
Thank you, Mo. I think it'd be appropriate maybe to give some context about the existing branch and a little bit of the background. So at this point, I'd like to introduce Norman and Olena, two of our key branch staff, and we have them give a little bit of our background for us.
Hello, my name is Norman Harrison, and I have had the pleasure of working at the Bayview Branch while living in the same community over the past decade. I'd like to take this opportunity to tell you a bit about the branch's history. So the branch first opened in 1966 in the Bayview Village Mall and had undergone a few renovations and relocations over the years. The most recent being in 2002, when the branch was renovated and relocated to its current location at the mall. At 6,333 square feet, it is a small but very well-used branch and is one of the library's top performing branches in terms of visits before the pandemic, and circulated almost 400,000 items in 2019. With an exponential population growth of 30% from 2006 to 2016, and with continued growth to date, one of the biggest challenges with the current location is that it is too small. The current branch does not meet the library's service delivery model standard for a neighborhood library, which is at minimum 10,000 square feet. So a larger branch would fulfill the needs of the community while providing the ability to conduct the programs and services that the Toronto Public Library wishes to offer. Olena?
Hi, my name is Olena Ashkenazi. I joined the Bayview branch as a branch head in 2018. By that time, the project was moving full steam, and it was an exciting journey diving in the new concept of the branch, read the drawings, meet the architect team, share the project's progress and updates with the branch team, discuss with the branch staff what new features, services we will be able to offer at the new branch. And it's absolutely exciting that the new branch location will double the size of the library to more than 13,000 square feet. It will provide ample space for all residents, including seniors, adults, children, and teens, different groups, newcomers, students, community groups, and will meet the needs of the expanding population of high-rise dwellers in the community. The new space will increase branch capacity and service opportunities. The addition of a program room will allow us to enhance programming opportunities in partnership with Parks, Forestry and Recreation. The new branch will feature an additional program room, which will be offered for quiet study and meeting space. It will also provide convenient location next to the Bessarion subway station, easy access by public transit and underground parking. Finally, the new Ethennonnhawastihnen branch will offer easy one-stop access to multiple services allocated in one complex: a park, pool, daycare, and the library. And we are looking forward to welcome you to our new, modern, vibrant, and ample branch that will be able to offer many new programs, services, and resources.
Thank you, Alina. I'm going to check on the counselor and see how things are going on her end. Okay, I'm assuming they're still working on the issue. So at this point, I'd like to call upon Melissa to come back and talk a little bit about our consultation activities.
All right, great. Thanks, Michelle. I introduced myself at the beginning, but for those of you who might have joined after, my name is Melissa Scott. I'm the Library Service Manager for the Fairview District of Toronto Public Library, and that includes the current Bayview branch. So this project kicked off with a number of years ago with Parks, Forestry and Recreation as the lead agency. The architect was hired in 2013 through a joint RFP, or request for proposal. The public consultation that took place was organized through the councillor's office at the time, who is David Shiner. A kickoff meeting was held in 2014 to introduce the project and the architect to the community. As the design developed, a second public meeting was held in 2015. The consultations at the time focused on the building itself. A consultation regarding programs and services was planned for the future when the building was closer to opening, since it was such a long construction project. Branch staff have been involved in the design development along with the TPL design team and facilities. The library continues to work closely with PFNR as we approach project completion. And as Mo mentioned earlier, more recently, there have been discussions with the Huron-Wendat Nation and the appropriateness of adopting the Wendat name that was given to the parkland immediate south of the community center. I'll pass things back over to Michelle now. Maybe we can see if the counselor's ready.
Thank you, Melissa. I think I'll wait until I hear from the council directly when she's ready, and we'll insert her back into the agenda. That way we don't have to keep putting her on the spot. So at this point, I'd like to call upon Susan Martin, who is our Manager of Capital Projects Planning and Implementation, to introduce our architects.
Thanks, Michelle. Like Norman, I've been working on this project really since 2013 and was able, with our partners at Parks and Rec, to be involved in the hiring of the architectural firm. And we're fortunate tonight that Teresa Dolniak from MJMA is going to step us through really the plan and the thinking around the complex as a whole, and give us some insight and some information about the library branch. So over to you, Teresa.
Hello, nice to meet everybody today, and thank you for coming to our presentation. So the library, as noted, is part of a larger community complex, the Ethennonnhawastihnen Community Center. It is part of a master plan community of Concord Place neighborhood, and the community center is located on the south side of Shepherd Avenue East, right behind Bessarion subway station. Its address is 100 Ethennonnhawastihnen Lane, and it is going to also be adjacent to Ethennonnhawastihnen Park. It will be the largest community center to date in Toronto, and an invention of a new urban typology for the city and community. and the Toronto Public Library will be one of the major program components of this new innovative community center. Next slide. The entire facility has underground parking, as we've already noted, run by Toronto Parking Authority. It's going to have recreation programs. It's going to have aquatics, childcare, and of course the library that supplements these programs. The library you see in the yellow on the ground level here sits on the main ground floor entrance area connecting to the central open public lobby space in the middle. The building is considered conceptually as a stacked building block that speaks to the confined nature of the site that it sits within. So we couldn't spread the programs all out and display them on one story. We actually had to stack them carefully and considering the context of the park and also to the residential neighborhood. The block building slips within the ground planes of the existing topography, allowing for multi-level access points of entrances and programs to connect to grade at all different levels. Maximizing connection to the urban streetscape, the subway center, again, the adjacent park, and providing opportunities to pull some of these program opportunities to the outdoors as well. It also evokes a simple massing strategy that speaks to the programs, putting the larger active programs to the east along Ethennonnhawastihnen Lane and Public Realm, and placing the supporting less active programs, they're kind of more private programs, to the west towards the single family residential community, keeping the elevation along the residential edge simpler, smaller in scale, and less permeable. The general material palette was inspired by this idea of the program blocks submerging from the ground. So we wanted to think of this as with real honest materials that were natural and unprocessed. So the exterior cladding is metal panel, glass and porcelain panels, and the interior is quarried stone, Canadian black granite terrazzo, and the use of white oak that pays homage to the white oak native species of the nearby Don River parklands and region as a whole. So the next slide shows the plans. As we noted, the library is part of the 209,000 square foot community recreation complex, where the library makes up about 13,000 square feet of the building area and will share synergies with all of these programs. So there's aquatics, there's dance studios, classrooms, teen areas, art studios, gymnasiums, fitness studios. So these synergies between the programs will exist horizontally in the building and also vertically. And Charlotte's actually going to speak more about the program offerings of the recreation and aquatics a little bit later in the presentation. So if you go through the plan, the ground level to the right, you'll see Bessarion subway station, a long public promenade that leads you to the main entrance of the building. To the left, where the yellow is the library. To the right is the aquatics, and the center gray area is the central lobby space that connects the building horizontally, and obviously the programs vertically as well, with a center feature stair. The second level, the purple area, shows where the childcare facilities were, which actually overlooks into the library. We're going to see some views of that later on. And to the right, some multi-purpose and admin space. The third level to the left is dance studios, classrooms, and multi-purpose space. The center is an outdoor terrace that will support some of the community programs like art studios and moments of repose. And to the right are gymnasiums and fitness studios, along with supporting change rooms. The fourth level, quite simple, you'll see to the left, the lower portion is PVs for sustainable green strategies for City of Toronto, and an open walking and running track for the community. The next slide, the library is located at one of the most prominent corners of the main level of the entire facility, giving the library street presence and the identity towards the community and amongst all of the other main programs. It will connect to the adjacent pedestrian public street as well as to this Ethennonnhawastihnen Park, landscape amenities, and the pathways beyond. The next slide, the building will contribute to community pride. and give the neighborhood a sense of identity. The library's robust presence within the building and upon the site will provide access for those with various literacies and foster social cohesion, and ultimately offering a space of refuge and respite within an equitable and safe environment within the entire building and also within itself as a whole. The next slide shows actually that kind of streetscape along the Ethennonnhawastihnen lane. And this was actually discovered through public engagement, some of the many ones that we did, where the community wanted a covered porchway from the adjacent Passerian subway station all the way to the center of the building entrance. And so we developed this as this kind of floating plane that hugged and went along that promenade area. And we, with the addition of green roofs and a kind of a nice wood soffit, we created a lower kind of intimate space that welcomed opportunities for walking and connecting to that main entrance. The next slide shows, as you walk into the main entrance, the central lobby space. This ultimately is the social heart of the building that connects the programs, not only horizontally across the floor plates, but also vertically with a main feature stair. The public lobby acts as this interior public plaza that maximizes wayfinding and provides opportunities for community and cultural celebrations and places for public and Indigenous art installations. So to the left, you'll see just remnants of the pool, the aquatics that Charlotte will bring you through. But to the left is actually the library. And the next slide will show that view from that central public lobby space and into the library. So through the use of glass and permeable screens, we maximize these transparencies and visual connections to all of the good things that the library has to offer, creating a welcoming and engaging platform to entice participation and really get people wondering what's inside there and what they want to do. And reinforcing that kind of interconnectivity of the public realm, not only on the outside, but also on the inside. The next slide shows the general layout, which we developed with the TPL team. Promotes TPL's vision and values by enhancing universal access to a broad range of human knowledge, experience, and information. It was conceived as being flexible and transformational environment. So through the use of movable book stacks and millwork pieces and movable walls and roll-up doors, we're able to transform the spaces to quiet moments of respite, study, and collaboration, to also be open, full performance event spaces and venues for cultural celebrations. So really ultimately maximizing the imaginative use of a library, really honing in on this notion that libraries can indeed be anything. So if we go through the plan, to the left, the large arrow shows the main entrance of the library from that central lobby space. You're greeted by the information desk and the self-checkout. To the lower part of that is the main program room that opens out to the lobby, being able to be a shared community space that can enhance some of the programs or support some of the programs and events that happen within that main central community lobby space. There's a lounge area, quiet study and meeting pods that break the kind of book stack area, the adult area, to the digital literacy spaces. There's the teen area, which is kind of in a lower, more enclosed space environment, thinking about acoustics in some of these spaces and some of the activities that happen that are louder and that are quieter, and keeping them apart and thinking about how we separate those spatially. And then to the left of that is the children's zone. And because there's parking underneath, and we had a kind of a battle with structural requirements because we had to hold up the building. It's actually a 2-level zone by about 5 steps. And so the book stacks are on the upper level. There's kind of a tiered lily pad kind of amphitheater space that opens to an open reading area, and then a reading corral that's lined with books and interactive toys for the kids. and access to with a ramp for strollers and for accessibility, and then also stairs so that there's choice in how to engage and move through the space. To the upper level is the staff area. There's some back of house spaces for IT and electrical closets, program rooms, and the kind of book drop-off workroom staff spaces as well. So above this, above the children's area in the second level plan, there's kind of a bridge, and the bridge houses the childcare center. And it accommodates around 52 children ranging from infants to preschoolers. And the next slide, it shows how there's an interconnection of that space to the library. And we provided portholes of glazing so that kids could actually come out of their classroom and look down into the kids zone of the library and really get excited and engaged and bewildered and want to participate in the library's offerings as well. So that was a program kind of adjacency of program idea that we came up with that really thought that those synergies could really work well together. And to the left, you can see how the program, the lower library program, relates to the landscape. And as you, to the right is the program bars of the classroom. And because of the topography, those classrooms were also able, to the next slide, connect to the landscape beyond. So you can see how each classroom has its own separate play space depending on the age group that you are in. So the last slide shows the design of the entire center, and the library program draws from and builds upon strengths and unique identities that make up and will continue to make up the Concord neighborhood within North York and within the broader urban fabric of the city of Toronto as a whole. It recognizes that it's making a new signature civic building that has an opportunity to become a catalyst for new neighborhoods in the future. And it recognizes that the library is a really important part of the success and narrative of this. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you very much, Tarisha. This was very informative. I see Councillor Carroll has her audio working now, and we can call upon you to speak a few words, or we can.
Well, I apologize for distracting things and causing you so many problems. 3 devices later, I finally found one that the audio was working, and I don't know why it randomly chose not to tonight.
This is the new world we're living in. We're used to it.
Yes, isn't it a fact of all of our lives? So I don't know where you're at. You've done the layout. I don't know how much you said about the naming of the center and that sort of thing. I know you wanted me to talk about that tonight.
We did talk about how the library kind of built on the work that you've done with the park and the street, but it'd be wonderful to hear you talk about the initial consultation even led to that part of it.
Oh, certainly. Well, we really appreciate it. Well, you've already had the chief of the Wendat Peoples thank you, but I'll join in thanking you. Not right now. I'm talking. Now they're trying to figure out how to adjust the screen. Anyway, it's a funny story, and I'll try to tell it very quickly. You know, I met shortly after the last election. I met with the new CEO of the North York General Hospital. We were talking about capacity of the hospital with all the growth, and I'd just begun to manage the new boundaries of Don Valley North that are so much broader, now take in almost all of the subway line. And so I said, you know, everyone is concerned about whether or not the hospital has capacity. And he said, you know, our problem in this neighborhood is not really the young people that are moving to your condos. The problem is, for some reason, people live an awfully long time in this neighborhood. He said North York General is unique in that we often have people over 100 years of age in our hospital. And he said, when I began in medicine, I might see 4 or 5 of those a year. We now have 4 or 5 of those a week in North York General. People just live a long time here, he said. And at the same time, we were talking about how will we name this street. People had told me during the election period that they weren't happy with the quick way in which the streets were named for the park, and didn't really like the origins. There was nothing heritage about it. And we had already renamed a street nearby. We wanted to dedicate it after an original Willowdale farmhouse that is still sitting on the property and designated heritage, that was owned by Thomas Clark. And so we named a street Thomas Clark House in this neighborhood, which means, you know, in Dish with One Spoon territory, we've already made a major new naming, and we've named it after a white settler. And so it made sense to reach out to the Aboriginal Affairs Committee, because Truth and Reconciliation policy was very much in development at that time. So I reached out and said, we really need to name this street now for infrastructure purposes, and so that parks can begin their naming process. Library board could begin theirs. We really need to name the street and the park, and we really we need your help, because we think that the First Nations should be involved in it. And she said, well, the policy they're hoping for is that they don't become involved in namings. They name. They do the naming. If you're asking them to do that, empowering them, that really feels like reconciliation. That really feels like something quite different. And so we asked them to do that. We said that we'll still have to go out and consult. And when we go to consult, we'll tell them how the name that's being proposed came about. But we'd like you to propose the name. And they came back. I didn't tell them my story about visiting with the CEO of the hospital, Dr. Tepper, but they came back to meet with us. The Wendat Peoples sent a delegation from the Chiefs Executive Council, and they said, the history of the Moatfield site and the Wendat Peoples, right where your park is and where this neighborhood is being built, was legendary in its time. People made a pilgrimage to settle there last, because by legend, you lived a long time if you could just get to this neighborhood. And I said, that's still true. That's true now. People in this neighborhood live a long time. We must be doing something right, but it must have been the first peoples here must have been doing something right. And they said, we want to name this where they lived good and beautiful lives, because that's what people said about this place. And I said, well, that's true today. And I'm so glad it was true for the first peoples. So when we consulted, we told people that story. And I think that's why, you know, we surveyed online as much as we could. It's pre-COVID, but we reached out as much as we could online, because there are so many condo owners, through my e-blast and having a public meeting across the street at Mountain Equipment Co-op. And by and large, some people are really struggling with the fact that Ethennonnhawastihnen is a sentiment. It's a sentence almost, and it's hard to pronounce until you know how to pronounce it. And so some people had real reservations about it, but by and large, people said, yes, that's an honest, it feels like an honest and true thing about these lands where the library sits and where the park now sits. And so by and large, we had a majority of people saying, yes, we empowered them to do the name. Let's take that name. And it's subsequent to that, naming the street and the park. We started making plans for a First Nations opening ceremony when COVID finally allows, and all the rest of it. Odetto Center from Seneca will help us with that. But by the time we started to make those plans during COVID times, we were making them with virtual meetings. Unbeknownst to us, park staff and library board and library staff were already beginning to say, it is very honorable to do that. And we have our own truth and reconciliation commitments. So really grateful to the board that they took this up, the Toronto Library Board. Yeah. And that's how we got here. If people are still struggling with it, when you go to my video where I talk about how to pronounce Ethennonnhawastihnen, you should know that even the Wendat peoples, when they came to propose it, they had to go away and check. And it's a language that is very much reduced and taken away, but they've done a lot of work to preserve it. And they actually provided us with a recording of a long ago chief saying Ethennonnhawastihnen. And that's how I came to feel confident enough to honor them by creating that little lesson video.
Thank you, Councillor. We put the link to your video in the chat for anybody who would like to follow it. And definitely, I used your video to learn how to pronounce the name, so it was very helpful for me as well. Thank you very much.
Well, to make us all feel ashamed, when I break it into 3 parts, anyone under 12 learns it very quickly. The rest of us have to struggle.
Those young brains. Thank you, Councillor. Mo, I don't know if there's anything you would like to add on to that as we've heard from the Councillor now, and otherwise we will continue our presentation.
No, just again, while the Councillor, sorry, Councillor, go ahead.
I just want to wrap up by saying one more thing. I just want you to rest assured that the other challenge in opening this, there are some people who just, you know, passionately loved the Bayview Village branch. And we're keenly aware of that. And so, you know, anything we can do, my team wants to help with the transition. They've been sort of brainstorming, do we, you know, stand on that site and walk people over and talk about it on the way or whatever. Anything that we can do. And this community, it's a really vibrant resident organization community. Anything we can do to sort of transition people to where they're really comfortable in their new space, we're happy to do. This open house should really just be the beginning of making people, you know, honor Bayview Village's old branch, but celebrate the new.
Thank you, Councillor. And I just wanted to say again, just to acknowledge your support and thank you for your support for the library and, you know, the whole site really, but also the library. And we really appreciate everything that you do for the libraries. And as I said earlier, we're honored to be able to use the name and put it on our library. And I do agree. You know, it was difficult to pronounce at first, but it rolls off the tongue now. And maybe what we'll do is we are putting this presentation on our project page, and maybe we'll put a link to your video as well there so people can find it easily as well. So we'll do that for sure.
Thank you very much. So at this point, I'd like to call upon Charlotte McCulkin from PFNR to talk a little bit about the facility as a whole.
Hi, everyone. My name is Charlotte McMulkin, and I am the Community Recreation Supervisor that's currently responsible for Ward 17. I'm going to take a brief moment of your time just to give you some highlights of the Parks, Forestry and Recreation amenities in the facility, as well as some program opportunities. Next slide, please. So Parks, Forestry, and Recreation has a vast number of amenities which are listed on the screen. So the amenities include a 25-meter pool along with a leisure pool, a large gymnasium, fitness studios, indoor playground, multi-purpose rooms, dance studios, kitchen and banquet rooms, computer touchdown areas, running track, and a boardroom and meeting rooms. Next slide, please. On the first level, Parks, Forestry, and Recreation will have a pool, which includes both the leisure pool and a 25-meter lap pool, and is equipped with 2 large change rooms. This is where Parks, Forestry, and Recreation will offer a wide variety of instructional and leisure aquatic programs under the supervision of highly trained aquatic staff. The program offerings can include the the Learn to Swim complement, aqua fitness, adapted swim programs, and a variety of specialized programs such as aquatic leadership, learn to train programs, and pre-lifeguard programs. The facility will also offer drop-in program opportunities such as leisure and lane swim. Next slide, please. On the third floor, Parks, Forestry, and Recreation will provide a wide variety of land recreational programs and meeting and social places for the public. These spaces include a double gym, a walking track, banquet hall, a variety of different multi-purpose rooms, arts and craft rooms, preschool rooms, weight room, and fitness studios, as well as an indoor play space. It's in these spaces that will provide us the opportunity for both instructional and drop-in opportunities for all ages and some intergenerational programs. So the programs can include sport programs like volleyball, basketball, badminton, pickleball, art programs like dance, visual arts, drama, and music, general interest programs like clubs, games, science, camps, preschool programs, fitness programs like Zumba, yoga, Pilates, cardio, family fitness, and offer permit opportunities for social gatherings and parties, as well as community events. And the indoor play space will also have drop-in hours. Next slide, please. So the new center is located in Ward 17, Don Valley North, and the ward has other community centers that are also included, which are Parkway Forest, Oriole, Pleasant View, Seneca Village, and Cummer. The recreational programs will be considered, when planning the recreational programs, we'll consider demographic information from the immediate community, successful program menus from other community centers, and community consultation feedback to finalize the selection of programs that best reflects the community's needs. And so this is where we want to hear from you as to what programs you want to best service the area. Thank you.
Thank you, Charlotte. So a little bit of where we stand in the schedule. So again, this project started, say, way back in 2013. It's been quite the journey, but we are now in the latter stage of construction, and we hope to be reopening the branch and the facilities by the end of Q1 in 2023. Between now and then, we'll be definitely keeping the community up to date as we progress and making sure you're informed. Look for more information on our website. You can definitely reach out to our branch staff at any time to find out what is going on and what stage we're at. And we'll be having, again, more meetings and more opportunities for you to share your feedback. So moving on to the next portion of tonight. We want to give an opportunity for you to ask the questions and give some comments, and we will address what we can, and some things we may have to come back to you on. I know there's been a number of questions and comments in the chat.
Yeah.
So
I'm happy. I've been keeping track, trying to keep the order. Michelle, if you like, I can ask the questions in the
please,
chat, and
Susan.
if people would like to unmute and ask a question, we can switch between the chat questions and then letting folks speak as well. But the first question is a quick one. Somebody asked about what PV meant, and PV is photovoltaic. That's solar panels. So when Teresa was speaking about PV, it means that part of the energy used on the site is generated by the site, which is great. And I think our next question, we have a number of questions on this topic, and the topic is really relating to parking. And talking about the parking situation and free parking and the differences really between Bayview, which has the unusual advantage of having free mall parking and really moving to a site where it'll be a parking lot that's operated by the Toronto Parking Authority. So Mo, do you want to have a kick at the can with the parking?
Sure, and I was scanning the questions.
Yeah.
And I think someone mentioned the site actually, in terms of how it was pulled together. TPA, Toronto Parking Authority, is going to be the operator of the parking. facility, and it will be paid parking. What we can do is take your comments back. Honestly, it's kind of a little bit outside of the scope of the library per se, but we can take your comments back. I'm not sure, in terms of what we can do with respect to the paid parking, but what I can confirm is we do have a drop box just outside the library, which is accessible, on the road. And I don't know if we've got an image in the deck that we can show if it was already there, but we do have that. So for quick access, easy drop off of materials, that's there. And Susan, Teresa, please remind me, is there a lay-by there where people can pull up? And yeah, okay, perfect. I just didn't want to speak out of turn. So you will be able to do a quick drop off of materials without having to pay for parking and park. But it is like quick parking. It's actually not parking. It's the lay-by where you stop, drop off, and continue. But that's really, I mean, all I can say. But we will definitely take your feedback in terms of the parking and pass it along.
We had a question also about the aquatic center. Will it have a sauna and a jacuzzi whirlpool? And I think Charlotte mentioned the size of the pool, but Charlotte, if you could just remind people the sizes of the pools.
I'll do that. I'll take it. It's a 25-meter pool. It's Michael, Susan. I'm the recreation manager for the North District. It's a 25-meter pool. There is no sauna or jacuzzi at this location. 2 tanks, 2-tank pool with a full 25-meter pool and a smaller learning pool.
Thank you. We also, I'm not sure if we can answer the question from Philomena, was asking about the number of childcare spaces. Teresa might know that, but any questions we're not able to answer tonight, we'll develop a Q&A document and we'll post it up on our website. But Teresa, do you remember the number of spaces for the childcare?
My understanding is the last, it was 52, but I can double check if that has changed.
So we'll confirm that information and include it in our Q&A as well.
Yes.
It's Philomena speaking. Karina confirmed it's 52.
Thank you, Karina.
Yep,
Hi.
10 toddlers and 32 preschoolers. So
Yes.
thank you.
Great, Karina. I didn't see you were on the meeting. We do have somebody from childcare. Thank you very much. That's great. We have a question too about Indigenous art and programming that will be part of the new library. So this could be Michelle or Melissa, if you want to start, and Mo, wrap it up or reverse that.
And I think, Teresa, do you have some, I guess, details as to the approach to that or no?
Yes, so we have been engaging with Jennifer Frank from the city. She's the lead Indigenous placemaker for the city. So we've done tours with her team. We've done tours with Toronto Public Library and thinking about locations for that. So that is still in the works. And we're hoping that it will also enhance this kind of heritage connection to the Ethennonnhawastihnen and the meaning to it.
Yeah, and then just to build off that, as Teresa mentioned, we have, or we are identifying spaces within the library itself for public art, and then we'll go through working with the city's public art department to work through to ensure that we do get some Indigenous public art in the space. And one of the things I should mention, we're committed to our Truth and Reconciliation response. And part of, it's not just naming of we want to make sure that we go well beyond the naming and that we actually incorporate programming and services and public art. So it's not, again, it's not, we're just not taking a name and paying lip service. As I say, we're committed. And I know Councillor Carroll is, as our colleagues who are in the facility with us in PFNR, as well. So we'll make sure that we do incorporate programming services as well as public art in the facility.
Mo, can I add just another piece of that, because it
Sure.
occurs to me looking at the people that are on. So many people from this neighborhood are on in that question. Something that we haven't had the opportunity to share with the community yet, and it's very early days, but there is a real future here for that, because we are in talks already with a number of groups within First Peoples communities in Toronto around the idea of people will remember. A lot of people on your call tonight were in the earliest working groups around they were just called the Canadian Tire Lands for many years. But in those earliest working groups, they know that we set aside room for schools. And we already have, because of the naming of the area, that there is already some Indigenous tribute art in the park. Some groups have reached out to say if there is a school, they want to know if they can add a First Nations learning hub to it, so that they have a sort of a core space in that project, and then would come and ask to partner with both the library and Parks and Rec to use those spaces to build more programming from there. So we have a potential to, by placing public art and doing the placemaking of naming, building a lot of activity around this over time, over the next decade or so. We'll just keep coming and coming with the development of things. So it really is going to be a center of TRC.
Thank you very much, Councillor. I think I had much else to ask, but we are continuing discussions and communication with the Huron-Wendat Nation as well. And we are working on them in terms of an opening ceremony and other consultation events happening planned. So there will be more to follow on this as well.
Michelle, if I can go back to the chat. We have a comment about people loving the Bayview Village branch, and I think we all acknowledge it's been a great branch. I always think of it as one of our small but mighty branches, and of course one of the great things about the branch is actually the staff, and you'll be happy to know the staff is going to be at the new Ethennonnhawastihnen branch, and I'm segueing into a question that Michelle Hamilton asked about how the PF&R staffing will be done. So, Michael, I don't know if you'd like to tackle that one.
I can tackle it. So the full-time staff will come from our existing complement. We have a new supervisor transferring in. It'll be Charlotte McMulkin. And we will have 3 CRPs, which are the frontline staff. 1 will be aquatics and 2 will be non-aquatics. In terms of part-time staff, we are always hiring. We're hiring right now for the summer. And I will share with you the link. I'll send it out to you. I'll send it out so you can post it on this consultation, the link for hiring, but we're always hiring. So if you know anyone looking for a summer job, we're looking for camp leaders, camp coordinators, specialty camp counselors. Does it sound like I want to hire staff? I'm looking for staff. Fitness instructors, but yes. So existing staff will have an opportunity for part-time, but also looking to always hire part-time staff. And we don't only hire, youth. I know a lot of people think about us hiring youth. We hire adults, older adults, and so definitely looking for staff all the time.
Great, thank you, Michael. We have a question from Jess about the hours of the community center and the new library branch. And will the library be open Saturday and Sunday? And if so, what hours? Michelle?
Well, I'm happy to say we will be enhancing the hours of service at the new branch. So you will find that the hours will be pretty much the same as Fairview. So you will have greater access to our facility. So again, we will be announcing that once we make the shift to the new location. So you'll see the actual hours posted later on.
And Michael will be open. We'll be open 7 days a week. Usually we'll start with an early morning swim and some maybe fitness classes, and we'll run right throughout the day into the evening. We'll close sometime between 9, 10, or 11, but usually we'll start with the early mornings, run all the 7 days a week. Weekend hours maybe slightly less, but typically it's 7 days a week and morning to night.
Great, thank you. Oh, I'm glad people are already making coffee plans to meet friends. This is perfect. Get your coffee and you can bring it into the library because we let you do that now.
It's not quite the same as the mall, we won't pretend, but there is a Starbucks not far away.
That's true. Michelle has asked a question to library staff. Will this library have a youth advisory group? So I don't know if Melissa wants to tackle that or Michelle.
We don't currently have one, but we'd be happy to take a suggestion for the need for one. And actually that kind of ties us into the next part of the presentation tonight is how can we go ahead and activate this new space and facilities. So thank you for that suggestion, Michelle.
And we have a question about if the collection will increase in the new larger branch. So Melissa, do you want to take that one?
Sure, I can take a stab at that one. I mean, we are expanding the size of the branch from about 6,000 and such to about 13 and such, as Norman had mentioned earlier. So my understanding is that the collection size will be increasing. I can't comment from what size to what size, but my understanding is that the collection size will be increasing, yes. Michelle, I don't know if you have anything else you want to add to that one.
I think you covered it.
Great.
So we have a suggestion about people using the library could get parking validated for 2-hour duration. I think we'll make note of a lot of these questions and really, I mean, TPA is one of the partners on the site and we can't commit certainly to anything related to that, but we're certainly noting down comments and concerns. And we also have a comment from Nancy about our not picked up hold charge. So we'll note that as well. Those of us who work on the capital program and in the branches, we don't set those policies, but we can certainly give your feedback about that too.
Can I add a little something about the parking, Susan? And
sure, absolutely.
I'll something that we'll probably talk about in one of my weekly columns in the near future. It's going to be an adjustment for people in the suburbs, but people are going to have to start getting used to seeing Toronto Parking Authority branching out and branching up, as we say, because we started to look at it as a way of managing parking in places. For instance, the new Golden Mile community, Councillor Thompson has arranged that there's going to be TPA throughout it. So some people will be green P parking to go to the Loblaws when it gets rebuilt into that center. So you're going to start to see Toronto Parking Authority more often. But if I can give any comfort, you're always going to find that the rates are beyond competitive. The rates are always going to be very, very, very affordable with TPA because the city owns it and has so much of the parking real estate in the city. They can afford to keep the rates very, very low, and yet they still are able to pay for the entire operation of it. Every part of running TPA and even enforcing it, all of that is paid for by the revenues that come in, and still it hands back a very healthy dividend to the city. There are other cities who come and try and figure out how we've managed that because they sold theirs off and no longer get anything from it. But the city does well with it, even offering the very low rates that it does. You know, there are restaurant districts in the city where we sometimes say, hey, if somebody can pay $200 for their dinner, why are we only charging them $5 for the whole evening for the parking, or $4 in Leslieville? But we can afford to do that. That generous profit is still coming back to the city. And so, while yes, there will be a parking rate, it will encourage some people to choose transit or people in the towers to choose to walk across the park, limiting the number of people who need that parking lot. But the rates, I can honestly say by policy, will stay affordable. Yeah.
Thank you, Councillor. We have a question in the chat about an innovation hub with 3D printers, etc. So Michelle, would you like to speak to that?
So this location will be the site of, we'll have a neighborhood tech kit as well as a large program room. So we hope to make sure that we'll be bringing innovative programs and services to this location as well. So residents will have access to 3D printers and a variety of technological devices and services.
We have we have a question in the chat about when we think it's going to be complete and ready for public use. So, Tricia, I'm going to lob that one at you. And we also have our senior manager from facilities, who I'm happy to have share the hot seat with you, Tricia.
Thank you, Susan.
You're welcome.
It's obviously just there's been many delays on the project, mostly because of the pandemic. There was construction slowdown based on material shortages and a bunch of things. It is supposed to be complete by the end of this year. We're not entirely sure of the exact month, but the target to get occupancy and all the furniture in and everything is towards the end of 2022.
Gail, any thoughts on that?
Well, just to add to it, that we're very fortunate that we're only going to have to close the existing branch for a very short time, as opposed to renovating a current location where it can be closed for between 2 and 3 years. Every effort will be made to keep that period of time as short as possible. Of course, we have to coordinate the opening with our partners on the site. But, we're in the process of procuring all the furniture and shelving now. And, we have a lot of experience with the lead times for that. And so everything will be in place before we start the move over to the new location.
We have a comment in the chat about shortening Ethennonnhawastihnen. Councillor Carroll, I might ask you to have a go at this one.
There we go. Sure.
There you go.
Sure.
There you go.
Well, there has been some talk about this. Transportation asked about this when they said, okay, it's going to look like it's going to really be something on a street sign. And we said what we would ask is that you go back and consult with the people that proposed the name. If you were going to shorten it, how would you shorten it? And there was real resistance to that because those letters construct the thought, the whole sentiment of that I described earlier. Shortening it takes away its meaning. And so they were really adamant that they said, we think that people will get used to this the way our own babies get used to language as they grow, and it will become a thing that people begin to know, like how to pronounce people know how to say Roncesvalles in a Toronto way. They said, we know that people will say it probably faster than we would, but we'd rather be true to the sentiment behind the word. I find that if all you can do is remember the first part, if you can Google Ethennn, no other word can ever come up. All you have to do is remember that it's Ethennn, and you're always going to get the whole word when you go to Google it or Google Map it. And that's something that I just sort of pass on everywhere I go. But that's why they didn't shorten it. We always said, please go back to the proposers of the name, the Wendat peoples, and work with them. And they had a real passion that if you're going to take this word that we have given you, take the word we've given you. Yeah.
Nancy Lee, would you mind popping in the chat again, popping the link in the chat again, and we will have it on our website as well.
Yeah, and if I could just jump in on that, Councillor, too, and I might be a little more so I'm just going to say my opinion on this is I think with all due respect to our Huron-Wendat community, that this was their land, and I don't think it's appropriate for us to take a word that they've honored us by being able to use and go back to them and ask them if they can shorten it. And to what you were saying, Councillor, it is a phrase, and it's like if you shorten it, what is it going to shorten to? They lived? Like, it's not appropriate. It's something that has come up, and I have to tell you from my own experience, it was the first few times is difficult. The video that the councillors provided is excellent, and Ethennonnhawastihnen rolls off your tongue after a while. It truly does. It might require a bit of practice, but I don't think it's appropriate for us to go back and ask if we can change or shorten the name that they've honored us by allowing us to use it. So
do
we
have
have
to
lots
say that
more
we as a
comments.
staff also see it as an opportunity to learn, and it's part of our efforts for reconciliation as well. It's a learning opportunity for us to get to the culture and for us to honor what they have given us. So it takes a little time, but it's time well spent.
So I'm going to assure everybody in the chat that we're going to capture the chat fully. So we're going to capture all of the comments and the ideas related to the parking and how costs might be mitigated. So we're probably not going to spend time tonight talking about that. So I'm just going to make sure that we're going to capture some of the other comments that have come up. And then I think, Michelle, probably we may want to shift gears into our breakout sessions shortly.
Yes.
There's a question from Sue about the capacity of the program rooms and the children's programming often drawing huge numbers, which may be something that we're approaching a little bit differently post-COVID. We're certainly much more conscious of our occupancy numbers than we've ever been in the past. But Teresa, off the top of your head, can you give us an estimate of the program room? I'm going to flip back to the library floor plan, and just to remind people that that program room also opens into the library itself, so it can be a very large event space. Apologies while I flip back. There we go.
Are you asking me about the program rooms and the rest of the center, or specific to the
Well,
library?
we're going to be selfish right now, and I'm just going to ask you about the library.
Okay. I have to look up the occupancy of that room. I don't remember offhand.
You know what I usually do? I count the chairs that are in the drawing. Which we could do. And we do have two programming spaces. One is a smaller meeting room that would probably accommodate easily 8 to 12. Has anybody done the count on the seats?
no, but Susan, if you could just point out the area that opens up as well.
Absolutely. So this opens up, and all of the furniture in this area is all movable. So we can easily double the size of the programming space. And again, because the meeting room, the program room is immediately adjacent to the very large lobby area, this program room can actually be used to support programming in the big lobby area as almost like a green room. So I think the opportunities for programming in this location are intense. There's also a really nice, what we imagine to be a story nook area here as well. And we will have an early literacy center for children 0 to 5 also to support early learning, early literacy skills. So lots of opportunities even for seating in this area as well for kids programs, the big program room, the medium-sized program room, and then our partners and using the big lobby for the very, very large events. Does that help answer that question, I hope? We have a question about bike parking being free. I believe bike parking is free, yes. There will be parking outside the library. And I'm sorry we didn't have a site plan to show you where the bike parking is, but it is right in front of the complex. And we have a question about who the daycare provider is. So I think that is something that hasn't been decided yet, that Children's Services. Karina, you're here. I'm going to be quiet and let you answer that question.
Yes, I'm here. Hi. So the childcare, it will be run by a third party, a community operator, will not be run by the City of Toronto. So as the completion of the project, it will be towards Q1 2023. We are planning to go out for an expression of interest this summer. So by fall 2022, we'll have an operator on board and we'll get ready for opening probably Q2 2023. It will take 2 to 3 months for licensing process after you get the occupancy for the building. So that's all I can say about it right now.
Great, thanks, Karina. That's very helpful. Okay, I think I'm trying to look at the time and look at the chat at the same time. I think we can comfortably, I think, go into breakout rooms. Michelle?
Yes, so at this point, we'd like to turn it over into some breakout room sessions to get feedback from you as to how we can go about activating these new spaces and features that we're going to be putting into the new branch. So you'll be receiving an invite to join the breakout room session shortly. Just click on the link and we'll have a facilitator in each room to address these questions and get your suggestions as to what kind of programs and services you'd like to see the library offer.
Some of you get to stay in the main room with me, so I'm happy to be here with our branch head, Elena. We'll just let the crackling stop. Okay. So I don't know if I introduced myself. I've worked for the library for 32 years coming this April, and I work on all of the building renovation projects for the library. I was a librarian at one point in the distant past. I used to work at the Toronto Reference Library in the periodicals department. But I've been out in the branches for a number of years and been doing capital project renovations really since 2014. So, and Elena, you've met and you know she's our fabulous branch head. So I hope you guys are willing to entertain us in some of our questions about what programs and services you would be interested in seeing in the new library branch. So anybody, you please feel free to unmute yourself and speak.
Hello, my name's Norm, and I really appreciated the program that the Don Mills Library had with various lectures on a whole bunch of different topics before the COVID hit. Apparently, it had been moved from the central office over to Don Mills during renovation. So those type of programs were excellent, and I think they'd be very beneficial for people within the community.
Great. What kind of topics, Norm?
There was one on hiking the Bruce Trail. There was cooking. There was a presentation about the rock churches in Ethiopia. There was some on taxes, all kind of variety of stuff. If you check with the staff at
Don Mills.
Don Mills, they would know all the different ones that they had. I wasn't able to attend all of them, but I went to a lot of them.
Well, that's a great suggestion. Thank you. Has anybody else either wanted to attend a program at the library or been to something either at Toronto Public or somewhere else that you think would be of interest? We're always interested in hearing about new people to partner with to bring in to give talks as well. Oh, we've got things in the chat. Fabulous. Cooking classes, Zumba for seniors, STEM courses for children, and aqua fitness. I believe there's going to actually be a community kitchen as well. I'll give a plug to our partners in Parks and Rec. So I do think that idea of cooking classes is definitely something that our partners will be taking on. So that's great. We're very interested in STEM as well, Elena, with the neighborhood tech kit. That's definitely an area of interest for us too. And for those of you who are like me, take a while to learn acronym, STEM is science, technology, engineering, and math. I think we add an A sometimes when we talk about STEAM. So we add art into that as well. So certainly there's lots of synergy between engineering, math, and art. chess sessions. Also a suggestion, as well as games. Yeah, it's surprising how much people really enjoy and appreciate some of those old board games, right? Getting at a board game, I know that's something during the pandemic we blew the dust off of a little more than we may have done in the past. So
Yeah, I think it will be a great idea to offer some board game nights. And yes, chess programs we offered them here at Bayview, and they were very popular.
chess is good
Yeah.
for math as well. My main recollection of trying to play chess as a kid was turning chess into checkers every time. So I didn't quite make it, but there you go. Maybe I need to sign up for the chess programs at Ethennonnhawastihnen.
You're welcome.
I know.
You will be the
I am
person
not a
there,
driver,
invitee.
so I know I'm excited. Anytime I've ever gotten off at the Passerian subway station, my goal is with Ethennonnhawastihnen Community Center is to make it the busiest subway station, not the least busiest. So we can do that, I'm sure. I'm wondering if you folks have any ideas about how the new library branch might be able to engage and connect with the local community, perhaps in a different way than we've done in the past, or a very successful old way. If anybody would like to unmute and sing out, that would be great.
I'd like to suggest that we connect with the Naturopathic College and the Chiropractic College that are right in our neighborhood, programming that they could perhaps provide and help. For example, the Chiropractic College runs a program for people with osteoarthritis. I think the GLAD program, I don't think many people in the community are aware of that. And certainly the Naturopathic College has a clinic with, very reasonable rates, but I know the naturopathic doctors, they have fourth-year students, and I know they'd be anxious to do presentations on, health, and also the relationship between, food, mood, and, your mental well-being. I think, given that we've all survived the pandemic to this point, I think we could all use some help in that area.
That's a very good point. Maureen, do you mind explaining to people what GLAD stands for?
Yeah, so it's a program that was developed in Denmark a number of years ago. And it's basically standing for good living with osteoarthritis. And so it's an 8-week program. And the Chiropractic College happens to be one of many centers. Prior to March 2020, it was actually offered at several hospitals in the city, and it was actually free of charge. Now that funding was withdrawn, and so it's only offered now by a variety of GLAD instructors who've taken the training and are able to provide this 8-week program. So there's some education components at the beginning of the program so that you understand basically, the nature of osteoarthritis. And then these are specific exercises that you're taught so that you can always do this at home. There are videos that have been developed not only by the team in Denmark, but also by the team GLAD Australia. But Toronto is certainly leading the way, and the Chiropractic College is just one of many. So they have a learning network now, and in the next week, they're focusing on food that people with osteoarthritis should be eating in order to improve their condition. So they're doing a talk in a few days. So
that's very helpful. And of course, with North York General being so close, there may be some opportunities as well for outreach and initiatives related to the hospital. We have a question about a pool, about what kind of water filtration system is being used. And Sky, unfortunately, it's just Elena and I as your facilitators in this room, but I'm happy to bring that question back if we get an opportunity to ask when we all go back to the big room. And if we can't get it for you, we can definitely to give that information. And yes, we can absolutely provide information for Charlotte and Michael in the chat. So I think that might have been an accidental. Dorothy, did you have a comment?
Yeah. Hi, this is actually Stephen Wong, authority is not available.
Okay.
I have a question.
Sure.
Whether just wondering whether is there a chance to put a table tennis recreation table there?
I'm sorry, I'm not sure. I missed that. What kind of a table?
Table tennis.
Table tennis. Oh, in the community center. I definitely think that is probably a community center question too, and I wouldn't be surprised if that's part of their standardized equipment. I know in the rec center close to me, which is East York Community Center, they do big time badminton, and I wouldn't be surprised if table tennis is one of them too. So 2 questions for Park. See, I knew if we didn't have a Parks person, Elena, we would get Parks questions. But we're happy to ask those questions when we pop back in. We'll won't let the meeting end until we ask those 2 questions, but that's a great thought. And Michelle's asking about foosball. When we've had some youth hubs, we've even had foosball tables in some library branches, so we can ask that question as well. It's hard to believe it's been such a long time. I was very new in my position when this project kicked off, but it's almost unbelievable that it's finally going to be ready to open, because we've been thinking and planning it for so long. So any other thoughts about library services? Any particular interest for library collections that you would like to recommend?
And we have only 30 seconds left.
Oh dear.
Yeah. So your last chance.
No, never your last chance. There's always a link on the
But in
library
this
page.
session, last chance to bring bright ideas or ask questions.
As soon as Michael comes back into the chat, I'm going to jump on him to ask our questions.
And I think we're getting back now.
Great. Isn't it good we didn't have to go anywhere? We could just sit on our tables. I'm waiting for somebody to join from Parks and Rec, because we had some Parks and Rec questions, of course.
Okay,
Michael.
well, in our breakout room, we ended quickly, and Diane was just going to say something. So could we just hear that?
Oh, sorry. And then Michael has to answer 2 questions.
Diane.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I said personal training packages.
And this is also probably Parks and Rec, right?
Yes. Well, when you
So we
talk
have
about
3 questions
programs
for
and
them.
services. Yeah.
Okay. So I see foosball tables. We've heard about personal trainers.
We had a question about what
personal
kind of
trainers.
filtration. Sorry.
Oh,
you're muted. You have to unmute.
I was going to say, not like personal trainer packages. Like I belong to Cummer Park, and it's you know, it's an old club, but they don't really have a way for people to learn the weight machines properly. So I just think it's something, it's like there's a little bit of a hole there. You know, you say, oh, I've got all these programs, I've got all this and all that, but there's not a person that's the pro. That's all.
I understand.
I do too. And did we lose Michael?
People still want both a jacuzzi and sauna.
That's this case, I would say, unfortunately, probably not in the design.
I agree. I totally for it.
This is important because only Douglas Snow and Cummer Park currently have done this. And I thought because it's a new center, I thought it would be cutting edge. Where's the jacuzzi and the sauna?
I agree.
That's right.
Yeah, I don't think Michael can answer that question. I don't think that was Michael's responsibility.
Well, no, I think
you could dig a
we
few
don't
more
have a lot of
holes there.
I hate to break up this conversation about jacuzzis and saunas because it sounds very exciting. But I got bumped out of my breakout room, which I am supposed to be facilitating, and I'm hoping Nancy can send me back to my breakout room. I'm not the right room.
No, it's over.
It's all done.
Okay,
I think
well, that took a
everybody
long
got
time
bumped
then.
back to the main room. We're
I
all
was gonna say,
Bummer.
we all
No,
came
my
back.
audio totally quit, so I'm very sorry to breakout room 1 that I got totally IT
I'm
wiped there.
sorry to tell you this, Melissa, but we handled it very well.
Oh, I'm proud.
Counselor-
I'm proud.
Counselor took your spot and facilitated it.
Oh my gosh. I'm so happy to hear that.
Very good. So, Michael, if you don't mind, very quickly, we had a question about what kind of pool it was going to be in terms of the filtration system, etc. In 5 words or less. We don't need the engineering of it.
Yeah, I can't tell you the filtration system off the top of my head. I'd have to actually look into it.
We'll put it in our Q&A, our written Q&A for follow-up. And then the other question was, please and thank you, table tennis tables.
A what?
Table tennis.
Oh, table tennis. Sorry, I didn't hear that. Yeah, we can look at definitely. A lot of times what we do with those is put them in like what we call common areas. So like hallways, lobbies. Yep. Okay, that's an easy one.
Okay.
There you go. Thank you. All right, back to the facilitators.
Okay. Well, that is the end of our presentation, and I want to say a big thank you for everyone who's joined us tonight. We do look forward to our ongoing communication and updates as we go through this project. We are very excited for what's to come. As Susan's mentioned, we will take back all your questions and concerns to the appropriate department. TPA will get a long list, but that's okay. We appreciate the suggestions. And look for our updates on our website and more to come. Take care, everyone, and have a good night.
Thank you.
Good night.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks. Good night.
Thank you.